Well, we say good evening, everyone. We are excited and delighted to be with you on tonight. It is the first Tuesday in the month of September, and want to welcome you to this Greater Intelligence Masterclass, where we have been intentionally focusing on areas of greater intelligence. I'm Pastor A, Senior Pastor Teacher of the Zion Church. Normally, for down through the years, Tuesday night at 7 p.m. has been our Bible study time. It's time that we kind of dive into the Word of God. But this is a year of greater for our ministry. And God laid upon my heart, pressed in my heart, to focus on greater intelligence. It is to expand our intelligence in all aspects of our lives. We really do believe that what the book of Hosea says, that people are perishing because of lack of knowledge. And I am excited and delighted to dive into another area of knowledge. But before we do that, we need you to like and share. We need you to do more than that. We need you to tag someone. We need you to even call someone. If you are part of our church, you should have a link in your phone. Share that with someone. If you are interested, if you understand and believe in the power of generational wealth, which is found through home ownership, you're going to want to be in what we're talking about on tonight. I'm telling you, it's getting ready to be awesome. We're getting ready to focus on home ownership. We're getting ready to talk about how to pay off a property. We're getting ready to talk about how to refinance, how to get a home, get a mortgage, anything you want to understand about home ownership of this housing crisis that we're in. We're getting ready to talk about that. I've got three great men of God that we're going to bring on the screen right now that's going to kind of help me in this conversation, if you will. I can't talk about this and be by myself. And so as we've done in the past, I have some excellent experts that's going to join us on tonight. Many of you know this first gentleman. I'm going to present him and then allow him to present our guest. He has so many hats, wears so many hats. But for tonight's discussion, this great man of God believes in home ownership, has helped countless of people attain a home. He's helped just about that many people pay off a home, and I'm glad that he's carved out some time to join us tonight. His name is Ernest Gonder. Hello, Pastor Gonder. How you doing tonight, sir?
Man, I am amazing, and I am so very happy to be here tonight.
Man, it's so good to have you. And you thought enough of this discussion tonight to invite another guru. We always have people that's over us in knowledge and under us in knowledge. And I called you because you're over me, and you called me because you knew someone that was over you.
Yes.
so, uh, so introduce our other guest tonight.
Well, I brought the real guru with me tonight. It's kind of like when you show up for a fight, you want to bring your friend who can fight the best. So I bought Andrew. I've known Andrew for some time now, and he has he'll tell you his history, but he's not in his late 40s, but he has his family have been in this business well over 40 years, and they are just his resume is just impeccable. But he's closed several deals for me, acting as the mortgage broker, and he's been a wealth of knowledge for me. So, instead of me sharing, I'm excited to share, but why not hear it from the real guru's mouth tonight? So that's why I asked Andrew to join us tonight.
Well, Brother Andrew, welcome to our platform, Zion Church here in Pompano Beach. But you're talking to people from across this breadth of the United States of America. We got people logging on from various parts of the globe. And so we're honored to have you tonight. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
First of all, thank you, Pastor A, Pastor Ernest, my good friend, and the people of Zion Church for having me on and just allowing me to be here with you guys. A little bit about me. So, my family has been in the mortgage business for 45 years. I was raised in it. My dad started a really large bank in the early 2000s when I was a younger kid. And I wanted a job. He told me I had to be the janitor. I had to start from the bottom up. And I learned just by listening to my dad and other mortgage people about how the industry works. And then when I graduated high school and went on to college, I knew this is what I wanted to do. So I studied finance and I ended up moving to New York because I figured if I'm going to learn real estate, learn it in the craziest place ever. So that's where my finance got started. And then I eventually came home because New York was a bit too cold for me, being a South Florida boy. And the football is better down here. And I just came here and I opened my own mortgage company where my dad is um, he's more of the ear that I need sometimes to ask for advice. And we do anywhere from 650 to 720 loans a year. So we do a good amount of transactions within South Florida. And our motto is different than most banks, than Bank of America or Chase or anything like that. Our motto is helping the community. So whatever we have to do to help somebody in the community buy a house, because we believe home ownership is the key to longevity success. You know, it creates generational wealth. It gives you opportunities to maybe pay for college for your kids or set your family up when you get older, or just that you don't have to depend on anybody in your later ages of life. Plus, kind of always have something that's physical. You know, you can touch it, you know it's worth something, you know where it is, you always know how to get there. It's where we plant our roots, right? So, whatever we can do to help people within the community get that is what our main goal is.
And thank you so much. And thank you so much for spending time with us. I want to say this before we get started. If you have any questions, make sure you put those questions in the chat, and I'm sure these brothers will be more than capable. I'm just going to moderate tonight, but these brothers will be more than capable of answering your question. But I want to start off by saying in South Florida, of course, and I think all across America, we're in this housing crisis, right?
Mhm.
People are renting, and we know that the cost of rent is in some cases even larger than a mortgage. Andrew, how does one? What is a pathway to if someone was renting a property right now, but they have a desire to own? What are some steps, or what are the pathway that you can help them? Maybe your mortgage company can help them get to where they want to go.
So, what I like to tell people is, so when you are signing a lease on a house, most landlords are going to require first, last, and security. In most cases, your down payment on a house can be less than that, right? If you have a family where you're renting a four-bedroom house somewhere in, let's say, Lauderhill or something like that, you're looking at $300 to $3,500 a month. You're talking about $10,000 you're giving to a landlord. You could potentially spend that $10,000 on your down payment and get a house. So every month when you work, because people work hard for their money and they're working hard for their money and they're giving it to a landlord and they're not getting anything in return. We could, in a way, your hard earned money is paying off your mortgage every month. You're going towards something that you own, that's yours at the end of the day. So it is a housing crisis out here, and there's a lot of things that
Andrew,
can be done. Yeah.
you actually have an echo. So I don't know if you have another device on in the background.
Let
Let
me
me.
try to. Let me go ahead. Go ahead, Andrew.
Is that better?
Yes, it
Oh,
went.
perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Yeah, and like even up to a couple weeks ago, the state was offering 25 up to $25,000 for people buying their first home as long as they lived within Florida. So there's also all types of grants and things that we might be able to use. What I always tell people is it's always, they're going to make it seem like it's easier to get than it is, but it is available out there. There's all types of things we could do, but most people don't need a grant. They don't need help from the city or the state. They have the money, they just don't realize that they have it. I tell a lot of clients, you could buy a house for um, I think we just recently did a deal where the person, I think, total spent $14,000. They bought a house for $14,000. It's doable. It's just we have to get them in the right financial situation, and most people can't do it.
Ernest, do you want to chime in on that? Is that And again, focusing on someone, if I'm paying rent right now, what's the pathway for me to get to ownership, and what does that look like?
Well, the pathway is going to be looking at your credit, and making sure that your credit is what Andrew, what's going to be that score? Six.
We need at least 620.
Okay, we you want to make sure it's above, but the higher it is, the better the interest rate is going to be. So you want to, number one, look at your credit, get your credit where it needs to be. Number two, begin saving. Like he said, we had someone close with 14,000. I've even seen them close with less. And one of the things I love about Andrew, and this is what really drew me to Andrew and made him my number one guy. The One of my clients needed extra monies to close. She did not have the monies. I had already, taken monies out of my commission to do things for her, and other things. And Andrew voluntarily. Now he don't know her from a can of paint. He don't know her. He never seen her a day of his life. And he said, well, here, in order to make this happen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up. I'm only going to I have to charge a minimum of, I think, a dollar or what?
$2.50.
Minute of $2.50. So instead of me charging the fee that I'm to charge on this loan, I'm going to just charge the minimum and only charge her $2.50. So when he did that, that showed me that his heart was really for community. His heart was really for people. But neither here nor there. Credit, after credit, of course, they need to look at their income debt ratio. People always ask the question, Pastor A. They ask, is this a good time to buy a home? Okay, so I want to dispel the thought of having to wait during a specific time, because if you buy while rates are high and prices are low, or rates are low and prices are high, it's going to equal out to the same thing. With where it appears that our economy going, we are in Florida, we are in South Florida. I honestly, just from my experience, I don't see these prices or these rates going down anytime soon. And by the time you rent for another 2, or let's just say 3 or 4 years, you will have paid more in your rent than you would have if you had a higher mortgage, because you can always refinance a mortgage once the rate go down. So I don't necessarily believe in waiting for a specific time, especially if you're renting, to purchase a home. The best time is always now. And Andrew, you can speak to that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't think there's ever a bad time to buy a house. It's just as long as it's a good time for you, is what I tell people. Because everything it's going to always go up, right? Previously, people were nervous 15 years ago. People that held on to their house 15 years ago, that house today is worth exponentially more than it was 15 years ago. So there's no such thing as a bad time. We can always refinance and bring down people's rates and bring down their payments. We could even use refinances to consolidate debt, which we've done quite a bit to help people out that are getting overwhelmed with credit cards or anything like that. So we always even use refinance for that. And the good thing about our company that is a little different, like I said, because our priority is the community, we do not charge for a refinance. It's so if you what how it works is, let's say somebody gets an interest rate of 6.5%, and I see interest rates are at 4% today. I'm going to call them and just say, hey, we can bring your payments down by $400 to $500. I'm going to do it for you, and we just do it. So it helps people, and they don't have to worry about, oh, let me monitor interest rates and keep my eye on this. That's my job, and I'll take that stress off of my client's head, and they don't have to worry.
Now, what are some of the pros and cons of refinancing? And when would be a good time to do it? I know a lot of seniors get. We've read about scandals with seniors being targeted about
Mhm.
refinancing their home and all of these things. So, what are some pros and cons, and when is a good time to refinance?
I'll be honest, there really isn't any cons to a refinance unless you're dealing with somebody that's trying to take advantage of someone. There are a lot of pros, but it's all person specific. So, like I said, if somebody needs to consolidate debt, that's something they can do it for. If you're thinking about starting a business, you have equity in your house, you can pull that equity out and help you start a business instead of going to a bank and getting a personal loan or a private loan, sometimes those loans are, the fine print can be a little scary with those types of loans, right? So you can use the equity in your own home to help start a business. You could, a lot of people use it to pay for, send their kids to college. I
Invest
even had
in
a
property.
client. Yeah, exactly. And another thing, a lot of people will pull out equity to invest in additional property to create additional income to where it's paying for itself. You know, I've had clients that take money out of their homes as a refinance to purchase another home, and the home they purchase not only pays the mortgage of the new house, it pays the mortgage of the house that they live in also. So they're basically living for free at that point. Plus they have two appreciating assets. So it's really person specific. The cons, a con can be that some banks can make it very pricey to refinance a loan. The good thing with us is we don't do that because I don't see the benefit in it. You know, I'm not here to take a penny from anybody's pocket. You know, it just, it doesn't make, I like to sleep well at night, and I don't, you know, I don't want to take advantage of anybody just to make a couple of dollars. It doesn't make sense to me. And that's a con. But like you said, that kind of goes with just these people taking advantage of people. Like, just for example, I always tell people, if anybody's over 65 years old and they refinance, they should refinance into what's called a reverse mortgage, which is basically where a person over 65 doesn't have a mortgage payment. They don't pay a mortgage. And even if, God forbid, let's say a husband and a wife are married and they refinance the reverse mortgage, and let's say the husband passes on, the wife gets to live in the house still with no monthly mortgage payment. So those are the things that I tell older
Would that
people. If
work for,
anybody,
is that just husband and wife? Would that work for a
no, as
sibling
long
or,
as long as you're 65,
I'm
as
sorry,
long as
said
you're,
it.
yeah, as long as you're 65 years old, you would qualify for a reverse mortgage, and the person has to be your either legally married spouse, or they have to be, because Florida's a common law state, they have to be your partner.
But that benefit wasn't passed down to a child or anything like that.
No, no,
Okay. Now, what
no.
happens, just for knowledge, what happens if a person refinance, reverse mortgage, something happens to that person? What happens to the property?
So the same way somebody would leave their house to an estate or a will or something like that, it would still work that way. It's just whatever equity is used up from the original mortgage. So the way it works is, let's say your house is worth 500,000, and you pass on, and you did a refinance of a of a of the reverse mortgage, like I mentioned. They will pay up to $500,000 of your mortgage for you. And the way it works is, when you pass on, if your family member decides to live in the house, they have to just get a loan to pay off the original mortgage. Or if they sell the house, the bank takes whatever they're owed and they get to keep the profit. So it's pretty much like, just, you're, instead of paying down your monthly mortgage, you're kind of adding on to your monthly mortgage. But the equity is there, and for a lot of people 65 and older, it's fixed income. You know, so they don't. If you can not have a $1,800 a month mortgage payment, that's beneficial for a lot of people on fixed incomes.
Now, you mentioned something that was interesting, about pulling equity out to purchase another home. And before we got live on the air, you talked about this generational wealth. I want you to talk about the logic of home ownership with the goal of creating generational wealth. Because when we think of generational wealth, sometimes we think we need to have won the lotto or be,
Hmm.
connected to the Queen of England or something.
Yeah,
But
you
I
got to
want you to
play
talk,
football in the league. Yeah, no,
right.
I know
So
what
I
you
want
mean.
you to talk about how important home ownership is to start the process of that generational wealth.
So, in my opinion, I think home ownership is the most realistic way of creating generational wealth for not only you and your immediate family, but family down the road. And I have actually seen this multiple times within my life. I have a very close family friend that moved to America in the 70s, and he would buy these little condo apartments in New York when New York was a very bad place. it was a different time. They were like $2,000 for an apartment, which today, if we could find an apartment for $2,000, there would be lines out the
Right.
door. But um, he bought maybe 50 of these places, and it was a rough time. He wasn't getting a rent, but it wasn't costing him anything either. And the guy moved to America from a different country. He had probably a fourth grade education level. He could barely read and write. When he passed on, he probably left about $100 million to his family just from buying houses. And he didn't go to college. He didn't have anything that the rest of us don't have. You know, he didn't have a lucky break. He just figured out, as long as I own these things and it doesn't cost me anything, it's appreciating. So with a lot of times when people own a house, and if you have a really good realtor like Pastor Ernest, for example, they can help you find good investments. And once you find a good investment, you have a piggy bank in your house of money that you can use for stuff like that. And it's kind of like a domino effect, because once you pull the money out of your house to buy the other one, then you have money in the other one to buy a third one, and then you have money in the third one to buy a fourth one, and it just goes on and on. As it's really limitless. The only limit I tell people is themselves. You know, as long as they, keep their credit good and save and stuff like that, they can buy as many investment property as possible, because the original home will always have the value.
Pastor Gunn, I wanted to ask you this question because you brought this up in a workshop we had at our church about paying down a mortgage and the strategy that is used to pay off a mortgage. We know that most mortgages, once you sign on a dotted line, it's 25 to 30 years. And we understand that there is a strategy or a principle that can literally cut that into at most into half. In your case, maybe less than 10 years. I want you to talk about that principle, if you will.
Okay, well, I'll tell you how I did it. I was able to pay off several mortgages by using the principle, because at the time, and the principle that I used was just basically snowballing the debt. Basically taking every dime of extra money, overtime, any extra money. So basically, I would live only having maybe about $400, $500 in my savings account, no matter what I did. Income tax time, y'all know we have 6 children, so income tax time we were getting, nine
Woo.
thousand, $10,000, in income tax at the time. And Victoria would always be mad at me, because as soon as that check hit the account, as soon as that direct pay hit, that's going directly to the mortgage. And just attacking the principle will allow you. You'll be surprised if you look at your amortization schedule. If you send $5,000, I'll use smaller numbers. If you send $1,000 to your principal, that saves you like double. So basically, $1,000 in the bank is nothing. $20,000 just sitting in the bank is $20,000. But if you send $20,000 to your principal, that 20,000 becomes over 40,000 and saves you several years, maybe 6 7 years that money will save you off the mortgage. So I did it just by within a 5 year period, every single dime that I got. I'm big on side hustles. I feel every man, everybody should have a side hustle, because your gift make room for you and bring you before great men. Well, the gifts that God has given you, whether it's cooking, whether it's baking, whether it's real estate, there's always something that you can do to bring in extra income. Those monies, you don't use that to live off of. You use that money to help build wealth. So you build wealth by paying that mortgage down. So my story is, once we paid off the first house, I moved out of that house and purchased another house and rented that house out. So I continued doing the same thing, sending every extra dime, because people were saying, well, you need $5,000 in emergency money. Well, what's a $5,000 emergency? I have homeowners insurance. I have medical insurance. I don't have to do that. So now, with me sending every dime that I had extra to my current mortgage, I was getting $2,000 a month from the tenants. Well, where did you think that $2,000 went? That 2,000 now went into on top of what I was paying. So that's the way I was able, to pay several homes off in a matter of years. Now, that's not everyone's story. Everyone can't do that. So, if you can't do it as rapidly, you just start sending something. I don't care if it's $100, $50, because every dime you pay down on your principal, that's more equity that you have in the home, and that's also less interest that you're going to pay the bank back on that mortgage. Because if you buy the house for 400,000, you're going to pay what, about 800,000, Andrew, over 30 years, if not more.
Yeah, if not more.
So
Yeah,
400 is really 800.
yeah.
Wow.
If not more.
Wow. Question: should you pay the principal at the same? Should you pay on the principal at the same time you make your mortgage payment, or should you send those as different payments?
Nowadays, the banks have. You want to speak to that, Andrew?
No, no, you can go right ahead. You're going to say what I was going to say, so that's perfect.
Yeah. Nowadays, the bank, that they see that people are doing it. It's not something that they so encourage or like, but they've made it a part of the payments. A lot of the banks have, where they have a tab for it where you can put additional to principal, and you can put it in there, and that goes directly to the principal.
So Angel, so you're saying $100 or $50 a month over a period of time can cut that mortgage down
Just
by.
just do okay. And this is the way I started, because I didn't have the extra, at first. So the way I started was doing biweekly. I got in touch with the bank. They charged me a $200 fee. I said, that's fine. $200 fee. And I was able to pay biweekly. So paying biweekly saves you, just paying biweekly, that's one extra mortgage payment per year. Just
Mhm.
one extra mortgage payment per year cuts your mortgage to what, Andrew? Off the top of your head?
I mean, it depends on. Let's just say your mortgage payment is $1,000. You're talking about 300, $36,000
Yeah,
by just that.
but by just biweekly. So it's not even really costing you more. You're just basically paying every 2 weeks. You're paying your mortgage, as opposed to paying it one time every
Once,
month, because
once a
you
month.
have that extra pay period in there, which forces you, without even realizing it, to make one extra payment per year. And that one extra payment per year will cut your mortgage down a matter of years.
Mhm. I mean,
Wow.
I tell all of my clients this. I mean, I only suggest to people because you never know anyone's situation. But what I always say is, listen, just round up the payment. So let's say their actual payment is $980. I tell them round it up to 1,000, pay the 1,000 every month, and
Mhm.
it can down the road it can cut the amount you're going to pay by $100,000, just
Wow.
$20 a month, which most people, they don't, that $20 is not going to make or break them, and they'll get so accustomed to paying the 1,000 over the 980 that it's just normal to them, and they'll save up. I mean, it could be even more depending on what, the actual principal and interest and the interest rate is. Just a lot of math that goes into that, but it could be 100,000 or more from just
Wow.
paying the smallest amount up.
Just rounding up.
Yeah, and then if you do kind of what Pastor Ernest said, like his situation, I mean, you're talking about you're paying off a 30-year mortgage within 5 or 6 years. At that point, you've probably only paid maybe $150,000 in interest instead of the potential 400,000. You're looking
Wow.
at a 250, $300,000 savings there.
Wow.
And, and,
That.
and, and it does not mean my way is the right way. I tell people, find something and stick to it. Just stick to it. That's my story. But if you're just doing $100 a month, if you just stick to that, you will see the fruit from that.
Wow. And you guys didn't say that, but start where you are. I don't care if you've been paying your mortgage for 10 years without this principle. Start this month.
Start now.
Start
Yep,
this month. You may be already on the backside of starting to hit that principle anyway.
exactly.
So if you start now, man, you'll cut that thing down. Here's another question: if you own your home, can you get a reverse mortgage, or do you have to just get an equity loan?
No, you could get a reverse mortgage if you own your loan, own your home and you're 65.
Okay. I
Yeah,
think that person that asked that question is
yeah,
65. So that
yeah.
is a amazing question. Because the goal is to be debt free. But as you're saying, Pastor Gunda, we don't have to limit ourselves to that one home.
Right.
The goal is to be on multiple
Right.
properties,
Right.
but understanding that this principle still applies. And
Right.
I think that's important because the goal has been, especially for people that look like myself, the only solo goal has been to own my home. And once you get that one home, we feel like we've arrived.
Mm.
Mhm.
We finally got the American dream.
Right.
Mhm.
And nobody has really taught us about owning multiple homes.
Right.
Nobody's talked about that. We thinking the top of the mountain is the one house. And for so many people, we realize that that's just not the case. That once you have the one is the hardest one, right?
Right.
Getting the first one,
Mhm.
but then everything else becomes easier. That's amazing. Brother Andrew, I want to ask you this question. If someone already has a mortgage with another lender, if they wanted to secure your services, how would they be able to do that? You didn't ask me to ask this
Yeah,
question, but I'm
what I'll
curious.
do is I'll send you guys my information. They just reach out to me, and I'll be happily to help however I can. Whether they want to refinance or do a reverse mortgage or something like that, I can help. I can help. I have a lot of clients that bank with previous people, got mortgages with previous people, and then we'll meet, or I'll meet through like a family member or something, and I'll help them as best as I can.
And also, what would be some things we know that there's predator lenders out there. We know that there are
Mhm.
people out there that take it, that don't mind taking advantage of people. What are
Mhm.
some of the things that someone that's trying to purchase a home should look for to make sure that they're not being taken advantage of?
Well, one thing I tell people all the time is the advantage that we have in the world today compared to when I was younger and my dad was in this business was we have technology today. And technology gives us some bit of a sense of security. So I tell clients, if somebody is telling you to text you your driver's license and your social security number in the world we live in today, everybody has an app, right? It doesn't matter who it is, everybody has an app. If they're not sending you an app to fill out your personal information yourself and it's not secured, don't give anybody your personal information. Don't give it over the phone. Don't text anything. Um, I've spoken to previous clients that are like, yeah, I spoke to a guy and he told me text him my social security card and my pay stubs. And I was like, don't ever text anybody your social security card and your pay stubs because you just don't know. So the one thing that we can use to fight predatory lending today is technology. I tell people that all the time. And it's great because it gives people the ability to do it on their own time and their own pace without feeling like they have to give me private information. And it also gives me the ability to give clients a little bit of sense of security that they know whatever they send me, it's in a secured portal. Nobody can see it. Nobody can get to it. Nobody will ever have access to it. So that's kind of what I tell people. Just avoid the things that if it makes you say, oh, that makes me a little concerned or that feels a little unright, it's probably because it's not right and you shouldn't go with it. I tell people that all the time. Other than that, most of these lenders, we have to follow a lot of rules. We get audited by the state. Every lender, no matter how big or small, the state comes in every year to make sure that you're keeping track of information, you aren't exposed to anything, that you are keeping everybody's information private and under lock and key. So most of these lenders will be able to follow the same rules I follow. Just be aware of the person that says, send me your information or do this or do that. It's not safe.
And what is this the gold package? And what I mean by that is if I have this, I should be approved, right? What is that package as a lender? What are you looking for? We talked about credit score earlier, but what are some of the things that as a lender people are looking for to qualify for a home?
So my philosophy on it is as long as you have a job, I should be able to qualify you for a house. The question is that going to be today? Or is it going to be in a couple months because you have to work on your credit or maybe fix a couple of things here and there? But the truth is, as long as you have a job, I should be able to give anybody a house. And that's kind of the model that I have. I'm not, I don't like to tell people because we're all unique. We all have fingerprints, we all have personalities. I tell people you can't put everybody under one guideline. It's hard because somebody might have a 620 credit score, which is kind of the minimum, but have zero debt to income ratio. They don't have any car payments or big credit cards. Or then you might have that person that has a 780 credit score, but they have student loans and car payments and all these things. So it's really hard for me to say like this is the gold standard. But what I tell everybody is as long as you have a job, I'll help you get a house. I'll help you get to where you need to be minimum to get pre-approved for what you want, and then we can take it from there. I just tell people it's the timeline.
Now,
There's some people that I'm like, you could go right now, and some people I'm like, we gotta wait a month.
now, Andrew can get them approved,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
question is, will they like what they're approved for?
that's the thing.
So what people have to understand is income debt ratio is big. So if you're someone that know that you have a five, 600, 800, $900 car payment, and you make $30,000, you know, that's something you want to look at that, because the more debt you have, the less you're going to be approved for. So, which means if you know you want to buy a house in the next year or so, and you don't have car payments, don't go get it, because
Hmm.
that's only going to make your approval amount less. So you want to keep your debt as low as possible. And when we talk about debt, we're talking about loans, things that you
Yeah,
have loans for,
yeah,
as low as possible, because that's what messes up your qual amount.
yeah. The good news is I know a lot of the loopholes within the system that we're allowed to use. So I can look at somebody's credit and say, hey, this is what we have to do to get you where you want to be. You want a house that's $400,000. This is what we have to do. And I can sometimes play with things to make it work. Like, for example, there's a rule that says if you have 10 payments or less on a car payment, I don't have to count it against your debt to income ratio. So I have a client right now that's on their 11th payment. So I told them, make your 11th payment now. So technically, you only have 10 payments left, and I don't have to use this against your debt to income ratio, and I can get you to where you want to be. So that's also a little bit of a benefit. I tell people every mortgage is like a fingerprint. There's no two are the same, but I've done enough to where I know how to make things happen for people as best as I can. And usually, if I can't, they know I've tried, I've exhausted every potential option.
Now, is
I
there a particular amount of money one should say? We know in South Florida, I mean, 400,000 is almost the standard cost of a house right now. But if you were to give someone advice to say, hey, you want to make sure you have this amount of money in savings, what would that amount be? It doesn't have to be exact, but just so.
So, um, if we average $400,000, the down payment on a $400,000 house is $14,000. I tell them try to have the down payment of $14,000. Everything else, I'll make it happen.
and he's telling the truth.
Yeah, I'll make it happen. I'll make it
And
happen.
again, I
I like
like
the
to
down payment.
give people attainable goals because, as you're
Yeah.
saying, that makes you a little more conscious of, hey, I may be getting a $5,000 tax return. I may need to save all of this because I need to get to this goal. And so the information, if we have it early, then we know what to expect and prepare for.
Yeah.
Now, what if someone, I heard you mention some of this earlier. What if they don't have that? What if they only have 7 or 8,000? What are some other options that may be available out
So
there?
the good news is the state and the city are always trying to find ways to help locals buy a house, right? Because it directly benefits the state, right? Because we all pay homeowners taxes, so it's a benefit to them. But we also want to see less renters and more homeowners, because the more homeowners in a state, the more thriving a state usually is. So it benefits the state directly. So you will see some grants, you will see some programs. Like I said, up to a couple of weeks ago, they had a program for as long as you worked in the state of Florida and lived here, they would give you $25,000. And the reason why they did that was to try to fight off
What
all the
was
New
it? What they did
Yorkers.
that?
Yeah,
And
it was called the
Give me a
Hometown Hero program. Yeah, and they did
okay,
it
I've heard of that.
because they wanted to combat all these New Yorkers moving here and people from Michigan and Arizona and all that stuff. They wanted to try to find a way to help Floridians compete to buy houses. The problem with it is they don't have unlimited supply of money. So once the money's gone, and that money was gone very quickly, very quickly.
And how does one get this information? Like I did hear about hometown, but where should we go to look for this type of information? Is there a
Well,
particular
the good
database?
news is because my family and I have been doing this so long, we know a lot of people within the industry and within the state that I know this stuff before it happens. So I'll know 2 weeks before and I'll call Ernest and say, hey, so this is what's going to happen. And these are all the clients that this would be perfect for. And then we also will let people know, we'll let you know, to let the congregation know, advertise however we can. And we just try to put it out. It's pretty much just word of mouth, though, because the state doesn't want to advertise it just because they know the funds are limited. So, but yeah, I try to give people as much of an early heads up. Even when the funds were dwindling, I called Ernest and said, "Hey, I heard they're going to run out of money fast. If you have any clients that are trying to do this thing, have them do it quick because in a week's time, I don't know where we're going to be." And a week later, I called him and I said, "Yeah, the money's gone."
So it's not what you like the saying says, not what you know is who you
It's who
know.
you know.
And
Yeah.
and that's why I as a pastor like to get this information out because even if you don't feel like today you're ready for a house, it's starting to build those relationships and those connections because someone who may be close and would have received that information, they might be in a house right now. Instead of waiting to, well, I'm going to wait to get the 14,000, 20,000. It's constantly getting yourself in the pipeline of information so that when something like this happens, you'll be in the communication line. So I
Yeah.
think that's powerful.
let me
Yeah, no, no. I believe knowledge is power, and whatever I know, I'm going to pass along to as many people as I can, however I can.
Now, I want to address those $14,000 because no no lender, no mortgage broker is going to tell you that low of a number. They're going to tell you more like 25. Okay,
Mm.
20 because I just want to say that because people will hear this and then they'll go to their realtor and they'll talk to more and they'll say, "Where did you hear that? You can't buy a house for 40." That is not the norm. The norm will be more in the 20 something to close to 30,000
Yeah,
because you have closing costs. Closing costs is not part of your down payment. You have down payment, you have closing costs and prepays. So part of that closing cost is 1 year of your taxes, 1 year of your insurance. It's things that go back into the house. So what Andrew is basically saying is he finds ways to get the monies and give credits when able to be able to come up with those other monies. So he's saying if people that use his company, this is with his company because I've used several mortgage brokers and that number has been 25, 30,000.
hmm
That's what Andrew is saying, exclusively to them. That's what they're able to do to help people, but that's not the general number. And
yeah,
you don't have, if you have another realtor, you can come to Andrew with another realtor because he's a mortgage broker. So you don't have to, I would love for you to use me. You don't have to because he's a mortgage broker.
yeah. And the way that I do that is I tell people I do the same thing that every bank does. Chase, Bank of America, Quicken Loans, all these banks. I do the same thing. The difference is I don't have all these expenses. When you walk into a Bank of America, it's this big, beautiful bank, and there's 30 people working there, and they all have on the suits, and I keep my costs down, and just focus on mortgages. I don't do car loans. I don't do banks. I don't do checking accounts, savings accounts, nothing like that. I just focus on residential loans, and because I'm able to do that, I'm able to keep my costs down. And because I'm able to keep my costs down, I have more that I could give. And if I could give more, it helps. It helps with the closing costs. And it works out.
And you generally only focus on residential.
You generally only focus on residential. Yeah, I tell people I'd rather be really, really good at one thing than all right at a bunch of things. You know, I'm sure, we all can't be Deion Sanders, right? We all can't play both ways. But at the end of the day, I focus on what I'm good at and what I know. At the end, it's what I know. And I pride myself on if I tell somebody something, that's what it's going to be. And I'm going to stand by my word. And if I wasn't as comfortable, I would have a hard time doing that. So I just focus on what I know and what I'm good at.
Just a couple of more questions. What would be a scenario that you would say a person would not be suitable for home ownership? We know that South Florida is transient, so some people live here for seasonal, but a lot of people have a fear of home ownership for whatever reason. It used to be because of hey, so I need to pay for maintenance and things of that nature. But as we talked about earlier, the rent is so high right now. Um, you know, having to do your own maintenance doesn't seem as bad. But what would you say a person is not suitable for home ownership? What does that look like?
I personally don't think that exists here in South Florida. There might be people that feel that way, and I understand that. And I don't, I'm not here to judge anybody. I 100% understand it. But what I tell people is we're very fortunate to live in a place that's very famous, right? So if you're going to buy real estate, you're probably better off buying real estate in South Florida where people know Miami, they know Fort Lauderdale, they know Palm Beach, rather than, some small town in Oklahoma, right? If you're going to go out on the limb and take that risk here. Don't take it, in some place that's riskier because at the end of the day, it's an investment property if you don't want to be there. I mean, like I said, the way technology has helped us advance in life, just the amount of money people make on Airbnb from living in South Florida. If you buy a house and you end up not wanting to be here, you have to move back to wherever you're from. I've done deals for clients that live in South America, the Caribbean, all types of things, and they come here. A lot of them will like buy a place for their kids to go to college. They'll go to FIU or or something, and then when the kids leave, they just rent it out, Airbnb or long-term rentals, and it's an asset. There's never I believe we can never have enough assets. At the end of the day, there's value there. You buy a car, they say it loses 15% the minute you drive it off the lot, right? I've never heard anybody say that about a house.
So the only scenario I can think of where a person is not good for home ownership is if they're not going to pay the mortgage. But other than that, it's a win-win. It's a benefit all the way around. And I've taken people and showed them how you buy a house that you can afford that have a garage. I've showed people how to take that house, close that garage in, and turn it into a studio. And that studio can pay more than half of your mortgage. Have one guy on the job. I went and I assessed his house. Not only did he have a garage, but it's a 3-bedroom home, but he had a garage and he had a large overhang in the back, and showed him how to. So he ended up making 3 studios, and he rent those out for $1,500 a piece. So he's paying his mortgage with the money that he's collecting, while no one is even infiltrating his home. It's just being creative. So there's always ways, and I always say this: if you want to be a homeowner, stop hanging around and having that conversation with people with apartment mentalities. You need to talk to. Yes, there's the hot water heater break, this and that and that. Well, rent goes up in apartments, so there's always pros and cons to anything, but there's more cons than pros, again, because we get back to the generational wealth piece.
Now, I want to end in that because you said something that's interesting. Home ownership can also be parlayed into a home business. How does that work from economic and maybe a tax situation as well? Maybe talk a little bit about that, either of you, if you possibly can.
What's that? Sound like ghosts.
I'm sorry, that's my dog.
Go ahead, Pastor. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
The You talked about home ownership, and then you kind of slid in a home business model. of that. Talk about what that looks like economically and from a tax situation and all that, having an actual home business.
Right, because when you have a business, you can write off parts. You can write off parts of your home that because you could rent 50% of your home, whatever it is that you use for your business. You could rent that. You could write that off. In your taxes. I have people who have turned their homes into rooming houses. They've sectioned their homes off where they stay in one part, and again, it has to be your situation where they live in one part and they rent out rooms to other people. I've shown people how to purchase investment properties, pull the equity out of their home, purchase it, put 20% down and purchase an investment property and room that property out, and they make double more than they would make on a traditional rental. So there's always business opportunities that you can, like you said, the Airbnb, there's so many things that you can do with a home that the sky is really the limit, and so everyone should be trying to become a homeowner because it's no losing with it. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry. Go
I'm
ahead. Yeah.
no, I would say to piggyback off that. I mean, what you said is true. The sky is truly the limit. I mean, I know somebody that bought a house and they have a decent sized yard, and they put a camper in the back and they rent the camper out, and they make money every month, and the camper pays his taxes, his insurance, and all his utility bills every month.
He rents the space.
Yeah, he rents the space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
Wow.
opportunities are truly endless.
Wow. Wow. Well, again, guys, I want to just thank you so much and for those that have been watching, thank you so much. Again, my goal, especially these past 3 weeks, is for us to gain financial intelligence. Whether you are looking for a home, already own a home, but maybe now you see how valuable it is to have investment properties, or if you own a home and you're still paying the mortgage, you figured out a strategy of how to pay off that mortgage faster. Because again, this is not something the bank is going to sit you down and say, okay, let me show you how to pay this 30-year mortgage off in 10 years. They're not going to do that. But as Andrew said, you can be paying 300 or 400 more $1,000 from that. And so, this is just vital information that we just have to know. We just have to understand. Jackie asked a question: are they recording? Just join. We're gonna when we log off, you'll be able to go right back and watch the replay of it. It is being recorded, however, but you can go right back and watch it after we're done. But I'm thankful, Andrew. And do you want to present your number if someone wants to reach out to you now? I mean, we'll
Yeah,
gladly put it in the chat.
yeah. What I'll do is I'll put it in the chat so
Okay.
everybody has it.
Okay.
Let me see
And
how
and
to do this.
Pastor, I'm going to get with you because I am planning, and I spoke with Andrew about it already. I am planning that workshop for the community, and Andrew is going to be a part of it, so he will be there.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to, if you don't mind, Andrew, I'm going to share this, and
Yes.
you guys can screenshot this for those that are watching. This is Brother Andrew's number. um, Feel free to reach out to him. As he said, he didn't ask me to do this, but if you have a mortgage company and you may be looking to refinance, he's the guy to call. If you are looking to purchase a home, we have Pastor Gonder here. You're going to need a realtor. So he's going to be able to help you with that. And of course, you already know he has a good mortgage lender for you. So I'm going to put up Pastor Gunder's number as well. Um, I didn't get permission from my wife to give anybody my number, but you wouldn't want mine anyway. I have nothing to offer you, but well, but I've been blessed. Kim and I, that is our goal to pay off our house very shortly, and we begin to use some of these strategies and principles in order to do that, so that we can become financially wealthy, begin to pay our sales back, perhaps even look into some additional investment properties. We've been blessed to have one. We're looking to have another one. And so, as pastor, I wanted to share this knowledge, right? So that people could just get a clear understanding that even owning a home is not as difficult as some may seem. And even paying off a home may not be as doesn't take you as long as you think it should. So thank you so much, brothers. Any closing remarks you want to say before we log off tonight?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I just want to thank everybody, for giving me the time. Pastor A, Pastor Ernest, I just appreciate it. And I'm here to help however I can.
I will say, I will end by saying faith. The word tells us faith without works is dead. As long as you can see yourself owning that home and see yourself owning that investment property, you can accomplish it. But there's something you have to do, and we're here, and it all starts with you just reaching out to us. Real quick, I had someone come to me and said, "Listen, I'm not ready yet. I'm not. I'm trying to get myself there." I said, "How do you know you aren't ready?" No, because I don't think, because I know I have to have. I said, "Listen, let's start right here. Here's Andrew's telephone number, 954-279-4725. Call Andrew. And what I love about Andrew, you can call him, and you can call Andrew 3 in the morning. He gonna pick up and do
Yeah.
do real estate.
Yeah.
I can do that. But yeah, I call Andrew all the time. Now, Andrew, I need an approval. And they thought they weren't ready. Well, needless to say, that person came to me and had that conversation with me 2 weeks ago and said they just knew they weren't ready. Well, Andrew got them pre-qualified the very next day after I gave them the telephone number, and I just got them in contract a few days ago. So
Yeah.
even if sometimes you're more ready and you're more qualified than you think you are. So faith without works is dead. You have to use the telephone numbers, even if it's just a conversation. Let's get it started.
Wow. Man, let's create new goals. Own a home, own another home, pay off the home. Let's make some goals. You can start this even before we've got a few more months before 2023 is out. Make a goal, set a goal, knock out the goal, and watch how your life begin to change. Thank you so much. This has been another master class of greater intelligence. I've been riding solo in this endeavor all year. But the past 3 weeks, man, I've been blessed to have just gurus in the area of financial literacy, in the area of credit score. So if you haven't been watching this, go back the past 2 weeks. That past 3 weeks, we've been focusing on, again, financial literacy. Last week, we talked about credit score with Added Grant, did a marvelous job. And then tonight, home ownership, real estate, paying off a mortgage, all of this knowledge. You got to get this. People are perishing for the lack of knowledge. You got it tonight. I was blessed to give it to you. These great men of God were blessed to come on to just share this information, and I'm happy they've been able to do that. Well, guys, our time is up. Thank you so much for yours. We look forward to seeing you next week for another edition of Greater Intelligence. Be blessed. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.